All right. Hey, welcome to Up at Night Studios. This is your host, Henry Harris. Boy, I got some stuff to talk to you about today. And, I wanted to start off with something that, to make you think. And I think what it was, let me ask you a question. And my question is this: what would happen if you stopped paying the income tax? What would happen? What do you think would happen? Do you think that the government will somehow run out of money? Do you think that some way, some fashion, that the economy just won't work simply because they don't have any money from your income? And notice I said your income. What do you think will happen? And I posed that question to you because I want you to think about, um, you know, I know everybody has a thing that they think about every day, like getting up, going to work, trying to make ends meet for your family. And then when you make your paycheck, you find that some of that money is gone that you done slaved for, and you was hoping that it was in your paycheck, but you didn't get it because the federal government got some of that money, and you wondering why. And a lot of times, you really don't decide to work many hours simply because you feel like if you worked any long hours, you would be giving away more money and it would tax you more. So I guess my question again would let me rephrase it a little bit. How much more money would you have if you didn't have to pay the taxes out of your paycheck? I think that's a good question, qualifying question. Had you ever thought about that? So let's say you get paid twice a month, and every time you get a check, you got $200 or $300 taken out of your check, and if you multiply that by two, you would average about $600 that's taken away from you every pay period or every month, because you're getting paid twice a month. So let me see, 600 times 6 is 3,600 times 12 months. That's $7,200, isn't it? So if you had $7,200 that you could put back into your pocket, what would you do with that money? Would it help with groceries? Would it help pay a bill faster? Would it mean that you can buy the steaks that you like, whether it be New York strips or filet mignon? Maybe you like crab legs and lobster and all of the good stuff. Would you do that more, or would you simply take the money that you've given away or put it in a bank account and actually save it for year-end saving and then plan a vacation around it? Would you be able to do that? I'm sure you can find some use with that type of money, $7,200 a year, if you were able to stop paying the federal income tax. Now, mind you, people that pay the income tax, they are legally bound to pay it because they signed a 1040 stating that they wanted to be a taxpayer, and that by paying the tax, you agree to what they're saying, And so you end up paying the taxes because you signed on the dotted line. All right, so let's back up a little bit. Let's start with how it all began. Okay. You found a job, you went to the job and got an interview to the place that you wanted to work. And when you got that interview, you sat down and you both agreed that this was the job that you wanted. And so they made an offer to you. And you decided to take that offer. And both of you were in agreement that you were going to come to work at a certain time. You were going to end your day at a certain time. You were going to have certain days off. You were expected to be in the office at a certain time. You agreed to go by the rules of the company because that was one of the things or stipulations that you had to follow the company and what they were doing because it's, after all, their company. You don't own it. And so you actually went there to try to make some ends meet so you could start helping that company profit, right? I guess you don't know what I mean by that, but let me break it down a little bit more for you. When you decided to take the job, because they hired you, they said, we are going to pay you a certain amount of money to help our company be a success. And that's one of the reasons why these companies hire you to help them to profit. Now, when all of the agreement was approved by you and the company, they gave you a bunch of forms to fill out, and they told you that you had to file or sign these papers. And they also gave you what they call as a W-2, a W-4. I think it's a W-4 because I don't file. Stating that you wanted so much money taken out of your check. In other words, you claimed some, I think it's called exemptions, and you only allowed them to take so much. Some people take out more money or have them take out more money because they want to pay less at the end of the year, or some people just barely have them take some money out and they end up owing more money. And so you actually started the process of having them take the money out of your check. You voluntarily said you wanted to be a taxpayer. And so that's why they gave you the form, so you can make the decisions on whether or not you wanted to be a taxpayer or not. And that's what really happened. Okay. So as you go along and you start working and you start getting paychecks on a regular basis, you decided that, okay, I'm going to either work a lot and let them take this money, or I'm not going to work as much and let them take as little as possible, because after all, that action only started because of you, right? Am I telling you right? And so after you go to work every day and all of the checks that you make, you look at those checks and you say, man, they took out a lot of money out of my paycheck. They really hit me hard. Well, let me kind of educate you a little bit more, and just to tell you that, first of all, you had a choice to whether or not to have some exemptions, or, what is it, claims on the sheet on the 1040. I mean, not on the 1040, but the W-4 that they gave you to fill out. And you allowed them to take so much money. That's bottom line. But you didn't know that you didn't have to do that. And so what happens is we fall into that trap of thinking that we got to file a tax return, we got to pay taxes on our wages where we get paid. So if you really think about it, let's back up a little bit. You're laboring on a regular basis, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever the job requires. And for you being there, you both agreed on $15 an hour or $20 an hour or whatever it was. But you also told them that out of that $20 an hour, you wanted to pay taxes on it because you the one turned in the form that said, I want to pay taxes, so I want to be a taxpayer. You said that. Company gave you an option, but you thought that you just had to do that. Now, most people, including myself at one time, didn't know any better, but we did what we did because we thought we had to do it. Our family, our mom, our dads, the people that love us. Every year my dad used to say, it's tax time. He tried to get the forms filled out by April 15th, and he tried to get them in the mail so he won't be penalized. And so we followed the advice of all our friends and our family and our mom and dad, and we say, we got to file taxes. We got to pay taxes every year. And it kind of makes you mad, though, if you really think about it, that all that money you gave away when you could have kept it. That might kind of upset you, won't it? It would upset me if I found out. Well, actually, it did until I found out what I needed to do. Okay, so let's do this. Let's kind of look at what kind of options you probably would have if you knew about it. But you got to understand why things are the way they are. So when you get a complete understanding of why you do the things you do and what you could have done about it, you're going to be, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that. That's true, because I was in the same boat. Now listen to this. Did you know? No, you probably don't know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Did you know that when you were born into a particular city? I don't care if it's Alabama, Atlanta, Chicago, anywhere in this country, besides Washington, D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, besides those places, but any other place that you was born, did you know that you were considered to be an American national? Now that sounds kind of strange, don't it? It's not that you are not American citizen. You are American citizen, but you're not a U.S. citizen. Don't that sound kind of strange? It's two different places. Okay, here you go. If you live in Washington, District of Columbia, that is considered the United States. That's that's a foreign country, if you would. The United States is a 10-mile radius. Okay. And around that 10-mile radius, you also you got Guam, you got Puerto Rico, you got the U.S. Virgin Islands, you got American Samoa. These are territories of the District of Columbia, which is the United States. So wherever the United States is, that's its own jurisdiction. It has government jurisdictions over all of those territories in which I mentioned. If you live in Alabama, Salt Lake City, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, any of those places, you're considered to be what they call a non-resident. You're not a resident of the U.S. You're a non-resident, and you're considered a non-resident alien, according to the IRS. But if you lived in Washington, D.C., you would be considered a U.S. citizen. Those people have to pay taxes because they're U.S. Now, I guess you say, well, how does that really work? It works like this. When you filed your first 1040 form, I want you to think about this. It says on the top, 1040 individual income tax form, federal income tax, right? Number one, let me ask you this question. Are you considered a federal employee? Are you? Notice I said federal income tax form. Are you a federal government employee? 9 times out of 10, the answer would be no, you're not a federal government employee. Why are you filing the form? Number two, when filing that form, also, you know that you have to sign that form, right? And right on the bottom, it says, sign under penalties of perjury. Now, what is penalties of perjury? What does perjury mean? It's a sworn affidavit. It's part of an oath that you're taking, that it's true and correct under oath, that everything that you put on that form is true. And by signing it, you're telling them that you wish to be treated as a U.S. citizen, as if you lived in Washington, District, Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and you give them jurisdiction to treat you like a U.S. taxpayer, United States citizen taxpayer. And so what happens is, when you do that and give them that jurisdiction, that means you become part of the United States as a U.S. citizen, because they're telling you that you're now enjoined as a U.S. citizen, and you have the rights to file tax returns because you're U.S. You done gave them jurisdiction, so you're doing what U.S. citizens do, file taxes. Well, what about the other people that don't live in the United States? Remember, the geographical area, which the United States is Guam, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and then Washington, District, Columbia, which is why they call it the district. Those are the jurisdictions on which the United States is operating. You live outside, you're considered a non-resident alien. You live in Chicago, you live in Detroit, you live in the other 50 states. You're considered non-resident. So what they do is they play with words to make it feel like, or seem like, that you're the one that is part of this, that their words mean to you, you're thinking they're speaking to you, which you're not, because you're not really a U.S. citizen, but you legally became a U.S. citizen by jurisdiction by allowing yourself to file that 1040 form and being part of the United States. So the IRS only has jurisdiction in the United States, which is where Washington District, Columbia is. That's where the president resides. That's where the government officials are, and the individuals that they talk about when they say the 1040 individual income tax are for individuals who hold office. Do you hold office? 9 times out of 10, no. 99% of all Americans are not liable to file a 1040 form or to pay an income tax. 99%. So they scam you, they lied to you, and they told you that you have to file taxes every year, file that 1040 form like clockwork. Why do you think that they, when it gets close to April 15th, why do you think that um, they always hit the media with something to frighten you? Like they get it in the news to talk about tax evasion. They talk about people going to jail. And so their hope is to intimidate you and put the fear of God in you so that you can continue to file a 1040 form or to pay a tax that way by April 15th. So their job was to intimidate you and to get you fearful of that you better file because they're going to come after you or throw you in jail. That's exactly how Joe Blow Public operates, and that's how they see things. People see things. It's because of what they heard. And the worst thing in the world is to continue to do these things out of fear. Think about it. Every year, it's the same thing. How would you like to get to April 15th and April 16th and April 17th and say, oh, it's just another day? How would you feel about that? If you could do that, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, you can. You've always had a choice. You know, I got a friend, her name is Kelly Alexander, and I'd like to have her on my broadcast one day. And she helps people like yourselves that are in a situation where you need to get out of the tax system and stop volunteering your 1040s, because that's what get people locked up, because of the sworn affidavit that you made. And that's what they use against you in a court of law. What if you can file what they call a ROE, called a revocation of election? What if you could file that and never have to file another tax return again, never have to think about April 15th, and get your employer to stop taking money out of your paycheck right away because you have a right to change your W-4s and file it a different way and not have any taxes taken out? So you know yourself. I mean, come on. Let's face it. The only reason why you file a tax return, in my mind, I could be wrong, I doubt it, is you file the tax returns to try to get money back from what they took. Am I right? 9 times out of 10, right? Man, they took all that money from me this year, man. I'm filing my taxes so I can get that money back. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could have just kept it? You wouldn't have any reason to file, would you? No reason, really. The only reason why you file is because 9 times out of 10, you filed to try to get some of the money back they took from you, and you go through this every year. And who's to say that you're going to get some money back? Right now, there's thousands of people right now that was supposed to get some money back, and they never did, and they still waiting on those that money to come back, and they still haven't gotten it yet. The big lie to keep you in a position where you're scared, you're worried about the IRS, and the law gives you a right to deal with them in a certain way. It's all smoke and mirrors, folks. Let's face it. If you could do something different and keep your money, you feel better about going to sleep at night, getting up in the morning, and working to get the money that was due you because you obligated yourself to this job, and they said they was gonna pay you $20 an hour. And if you can keep that $20 an hour in your pocket, how much more better would things be? You might even save enough money to have a car note, a brand new car, right? Come on, you know it. So all I'm saying to you, think about it and think about what I'm saying to you, folks. I'm not an attorney. No. I'm just telling you the facts. You can look it up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. There was one time, just to give you some information about what I did one time. Man, I had got this letter in the mail from the IRS, and this was years ago. And I just got tired of thinking about what they gonna do to me. So I decided this one year, since I got this letter, I may as well go and talk to them. So I just walked on in the Internal Revenue Office, and when it was my turn to get up to the desk and talk to the lady, I said to her, she said to me, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Ma'am, I hope that you can." I said, I've got some. I'm kind of concerned about something, and I don't want to, mess up. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got this letter in the mail that said I had not filed my 1040 form yet." And she said, "Really?" She said, "Why haven't you filed?" I said, "Ma'am, I didn't want to get in no trouble." I said, "But I'm here today because I wanted to find out if you can help me." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Ma'am, I've been looking for the statutes and implementing regulations which make me liable to file a 1040 form or to pay a tax." And you know what she said to me? She said, "Oh, we got that." I said, "Really?" I said, "Ma'am, you just don't know how I feel." I said, "I've been looking for this thing and looking for this thing, and you said that you got the statutes and the implementing regulations?" I said, "Ma'am, I brought my checkbook just in case I had to pay some taxes." I said, "Could you go get it? I'll wait over there." And she went and left, and I sat down, and honest to God, I sat there for at least 30 to 45 minutes. That lady never returned, and she left the building because I found out truly that there is no statutes and there is no implementing regulations which make a person liable to file a 1040 tax return or to pay a tax, because that means if there's no statute, no implementing regulations, that means there is no law, because it takes the statute and the implementing regulations both working together hand in hand to actually be a law. And if that ain't happening, it ain't no law. All of the people that they refer to are people that live in the United States. And notice they always play with words, and they never tell you that you're not a U.S. citizen. They make you a U.S. citizen because you didn't know any better, and that you weren't born in the United States. You were born outside of the jurisdiction of the United States, but you became privy to it by filing a 1040 form and making yourself part of the United States by taxation, which means they treat you differently, and they treat everybody else as if they were a U.S. citizen taxpayer. Now, there is a such thing as a non or a non how would I want to put it? A legal non-taxpayer. And I'm one of those people that are a legal non-paying taxpayer. I'm legal. I didn't say I was illegal. I said I was legal. And why am I legal? It's because I chose to opt out of the system by filing a ROE, which is a revocation of election with about 100 reasons that I do not wish to volunteer anymore. And I sent it to certain places of the Internal Revenue Service. And I have not filed a tax return in several years now. And I never hear from them. And I keep my money. When I go to work, I don't file tax returns. There's no reason for me to file a tax return or to allow people to take money out of my check because I don't file tax returns. So it ain't talking to me. I wish to unvolunteer. And that's exactly what I've done. So all I'm telling you folks is that you could do the same thing. You have a right not to file a tax return. Federal income tax, what I'm talking about. You worked hard, you filed for these, you get up every morning for somebody else. That extra $5 or $100 is good to feed the children or to feed your get you something nice for yourself, to pay yourself, to save your money, and to eat good. They say we're supposed to eat good, right? It takes money to eat good. Plus, gasoline prices are high. Okay, so you want to talk about that? If you didn't have to pay an income tax or federal income tax, and you kept your money, you'd be a lot better off. Yeah, the government will operate, believe me, because that's what they call a gasoline tax, oil tax. That's where the money comes from when they do the the bridges and the roads they use the gasoline tax, the oil taxes, and that's why they have those taxes at the pump. That's why people pay those on a regular basis, and there's millions and millions and millions and millions of vehicles paying taxes through that. They cannot give you what they call a direct tax. They can't direct tax you. That's illegal. But you could voluntarily be, a tax a U.S. citizen and file a tax return and say that you want to be part of it. That's illegal. That's legal right there. You can good for that. If you want to sign on the dotted line and say you want to be a U.S. citizen taxpayer, then yeah, that is legal. By all means. But if you want to change that, you can also change your status just like you got in it. You can unvolunteer and get out of it. I think this is something important that you needed to hear. So what would happen if you stopped paying the federal income tax? You should start living better. You have less stress. You never have to worry about April 15th if you had an ROE. If you need to know about how to get this ROE, you can contact me through the site. Okay, and leave a comment below. And I'd be glad to address it and give you some information about who to talk to and where to get it done and how to get you a ROE, revocation of election, which is what it's called. You can do that, just like I have. And you have every right to. I just want you to think about that because your life is important to you. How you live is important to you. And don't be running around being afraid of those people. If you believe in God, then that means you have strength already through the Lord Jesus Christ and the power of the word. He said, fear no man, none. Because if you belong to him, you're a king's kid. If you're a king's kid, that means you got all rights. Just go after the truth. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. I promise you, you're going to love it later. And you're going to love that you ask questions. Okay? So, anyway, I'm going to do another video with this information. And hopefully, we'll get more of this information later. And I can come and bring you some more stuff that I think that you will really enjoy. So right now, this is all that I have for you. This is Henry at Up at Night Studios. I really am glad that you stopped by and decided to listen to what I have to say. And I think you got a lot out of you know more right now than a whole lot of people know. Believe me. Just don't be afraid and don't be scared to ask questions because you need to know. Okay. All right. And I want to thank you again. And right now we're just gonna call it quits and we'll see you again soon. Thanks so much. Have a good night at Up at Night. My name is Henry, and we'll see you again. Bye now.